Hi and welcome back. In the previous episode, we refactored the code to use namespaces. We added namespaces to the database, response, and validator classes. We imported those namespaces in our, actually we should do that in our router because I'm not getting it, because I'm getting an error over here. So to fix this error, I'm glad I'm getting this on video. Just use core \response. There you go. Not user, use. I'm glad we got this error. I did the same thing on functions. See, use core response. Now I'm not getting the error anymore. Now this is by default imported from the PHP autoload function, but for some reason if it doesn't, then it's always best practice to import your classes at the top of your PHP file. Okay, so we created namespaces. We updated the function in index.php, the main index.php in public, so that its string replaces it the backslash or whatever the directory separator is for the operating system. Then we required the base path. So a lot of refactoring later, we arrived at an app which hopefully still should work. Yes, it does. You can create a note and let's say, hello, this is using namespaces. And indeed it does work. Cool. So this was an update on our progress up until now. I've also fixed the body text here. I realized I was just importing the same view in all of these, but I've changed that now. And let's see what we learned today with handling multiple request methods from a single controller action. Let's see.
All right, welcome back everybody. Buckle up because over the next few episodes, I'm going to show you some things that are probably a little more advanced than where we currently are in our learning, but I'm still going to do it because I think you're ready. So we're going to talk more about request types. We will enhance our router to support these request types. You will learn about service containers, and we'll even build our own service container. So all of this kind of fancy, confusing terminology in 3 episodes is going to make perfect sense to you. So why don't we get going?
I'm scared.
All right, so I will bring up PHP Storm. And yeah, before we make any sweeping code changes here, we first need to know the why. Because remember, the why drives the refactor, or at least it should drive the refactor. Here's another way of thinking of it. There needs to be some kind of pain point that leads you down a particular path in a particular refactor. And I'm going to show you that in this video. So for example, if I go into Firefox and I click on our notes section, we still don't have a way to delete a note. So yeah, maybe right here, if I click on it, here's the body of the note, and yeah, maybe right below it, there should be a button to delete the note. Okay, so let's go down to our views where we show a note. And yeah, right here below the body, we want some kind of action for deleting the current note. Okay, so if I come back and refresh, it's totally unstyled, but this is basically what I mean. Okay, so now pause if you need to. I want you to answer the question, is it appropriate to use an anchor tag for this sort of request? Okay, pause if you need to and really think about it. And the answer is
Shush. It's okay. It's probably not. Okay. Sorry. I was half a second late. He said no. But let's see why is it not appropriate to use an anchor tag here. Okay, let's add a button first up. I'm gonna add a fancy button. Okay, so I have one in the note index. Yeah, I do. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to add this to the same show as well, right? So this is back to all notes. Right before back to all notes, I'll just say this, and I'm going to, instead of blue, let it be red, and I'll say delete. Let's see. Okay. Oh wow. Hover should also be red. Notes. Okay. Should this be an anchor tag? Should this be an anchor tag? No, it should be a post request. Post request, which I typically, ideally shows a confirmation modal, which says, are you sure you want to delete? But if you don't want to have that confirmation, at least for now, it should be a post request, which, actually no, it should be a different one. It should be a delete request. So there are different HTTP methods. There's get, put, post, delete, batch. Okay, so what it should be is essentially, if I'm following the logic here, how we created it in the create controller. See, if server request method is post, then we should say if server request method is delete, then basically remove the query from the database. I think that's what it should be. Let's see what he does.
Okay, so remember a number of episodes when we talked about idempotency, a very confusing term. It's even hard to say. And you'll remember that what that means is no matter how many times I make a particular request, it's not going to change anything, right? So if I make a request to view the home page, it's always going to show me the home page. Compare that to a request to delete a note, or to add a product, or to update a product. Those things are not idempotent, and as such, we should probably not use a standard GET request, which is what a anchor tag will do for us. Okay, so instead, we will store this within a form, and then I will add a submit button that says delete, and yeah, if you want, we will make it small and red. Okay, also we should have just a little margin above this form. Come back, give it a refresh, and yeah, that's good enough for now. Okay, so now when I click on this, well, of course, by default, it's going to submit a GET request to the current page. So we could change this to a post.
Just 1 second. I'll increase the definition.
Post request. And if I come back, we try it again. And yeah, the page just effectively reloads, even though we did submit a post request. And that's because, well, think about it. Let's have a look at our routes section. And yeah, right here is our current URI. So we now submit a post request that loads the show controller, and this just displays the note. So there's no change. In other words, when we submit a GET request versus a POST request to this specific controller.
Correct.
Yeah, if you want, we could do it right here. I could die and dump the current server superglobal. And if I come back and I now submit it, sure enough, we can see that we are submitting a POST request to this page. Okay. So yeah, I guess once again, we could do this weird check where we say, all right, well, if the request method, and again, I'm just grabbing that right here, that's the name of the item. If that equals post, then, well, we're just going to assume that's a request to delete.
That's not correct. There is a delete method.
The note. But again, maybe it could be a request to update the note. So this is where you really have to think about the structure of your URIs. So another option, if I were to come back to my routes section, you might think, well, let's use a completely different URI. So for example, we might say, note/delete should take us to a different controller. And yeah, I guess you could do it if you want. And in fact, it's actually a really common approach, but I don't really love it. And worse, if I teach you this approach, in a handful of episodes, I'm just going to unteach you. So instead, I really do want to stick with a common RESTful convention here. And that convention says if you want to delete a particular note, then you should submit a delete request to that specific note endpoint. Mm-hmm. But now we have more problems, lots of problems here. As it turns out, current browsers and forms do not support request types that are not GET or POST. So if I want to submit a delete request or a put or a patch request, usually for updating a resource, well, forms don't really understand that. So now, if that's the case, and we still want to use these request types, our application has to be updated to support it. And we need to provide some kind of hint to our application to say, okay, well, the form doesn't support submitting a delete request, but that's really what I want. All right, so we got to figure out how to communicate that as part of our application. So here's what we'll do for now. If we come back into notes/show, I'm just going to stick with a simple post request. And then in the coming episodes, I'm going to show you how we can rewrite things to make it a little more, a little more seamless. Okay, so let's come back into notes/show. And yeah, it sounds like this is what we have to do at the moment. We check, well, if you submitted the page, then we want to take this pathway. Otherwise, we're going to take the pathway that you see right here. Give it a reformat. Notice how already it just feels gross. The more if-else statements you add, the more complexity that you add as well. And then if within one if statement you add another if statement, very quickly things can go off the rails. And you will encounter this over and over in your own projects. Okay.
I hate those nested if statements are really, really confusing.
But yeah, we'll just say form was submitted, delete the current note. Okay, so how could we do that? Well, we just need to write a query. So I could say...
Yeah, same. So db query, select everything, and from that ID, not just select, I think it should be delete or drop everything from notes where ID equals.
db query, and let's write a delete SQL query. Delete from notes where the ID equals an ID that should be passed through the form or when we submit the form. But at the moment, you can see we're not actually submitting anything as part of the post request. Okay, so why don't we do this? Let's add an input that's actually hidden because I don't want the user to see it. Or in other words, if I keep it like this, and then we set the value equal to the ID of the current note. So I could do something like this, note ID. Okay, so if we come back to Firefox and give this a reload, yeah, sure enough, we now have the ID of the note, which is 17, and that will be submitted when we press this button here. But there's no reason to show this input to the end user. So instead, I'm going to create an input with a type of hidden. That way it exists, and it will be included along with the post request, but the user doesn't have to see it. Okay, let's prove it. Let's go back into our controller here and say, well, before we do anything, let's die and dump the post super global, and then we'll give this a shot. So refresh, and I will delete it, and that didn't work. What did I do wrong here? See, I talk a big game, and then things don't even work. Oh yeah, of course, we have to add a name for this input. So we'll say ID. Okay, and I showed you this a number of episodes ago. If you don't include the name, it will not be included as part of the post request.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, one more time. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
But sure enough, we are sending it through. Okay, great. So now...
Interesting to note, it was a type of string. So let's follow along, okay? So we have a... okay, let me close everything. Okay, cool. Now we're at the show view PHP. We have a button here, which is the delete button. But instead of an anchor tag, I should call it a form. Okay. Okay, and request type, method should be post. Okay. Then I'll have a input, type should be hidden, ID equals ID, name equals ID, excuse me, and the value should be the note ID. but I should enter PHP mode for this. Yeah, cool. What? Yeah. Okay, cool. Now we have this, but in the show controller, yeah, here. If the request, what was it? Server super global request method. Equals post. I'll just say echo post and else to all of this. Okay. Okay, let's see. So I'm on my notes. Let's watch a note. Let's delete it. Yeah, it works. So here, let me dd the post super global, I believe it was, right? Post and ID. Let's see. Post ID is 12. Yeah, string 12. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right. Come back here, uncomment this, and we could say delete from notes where the ID equals the ID of the note that was included along with the post request. But now remember, we need proper authorization. Otherwise, anyone could make this request. Even if I don't have an account, if I knew that you had this security concern, I could manually make this request and start deleting the notes of all of the users in your system. And I could even create a loop where I just go through every single ID and I try to delete the note. And I'm sure you could do that across lots of small applications where they don't quite know about authorization. So what we'll do is grab all of this here, do a little duplication, but that's okay because we're going to refactor this in the next episode. Bring this up. And yeah, if you want to delete the note, we first need to check the note and look at it and check the user ID who created the note and see, well, is that the same ID as the person who is currently signed in? So yeah, now we check, all right, track down the note that matches this ID.
Let me create the database query first. Okay. Instead of DDing the post super global, I'm gonna, you know what, do exactly this. Copy it, paste it, and move this up. I should have done that here as well. I should have authorized, actually not all of it. Okay, I just need to move this up and this up. Okay, I'm pressing Alt up arrow to move things. Okay, so I've authorized the current user. Then if it's a post, then delete from nodes where ID is ID is this, find or fail. It should be get ID, it should be post ID. Okay, let's see. I view your notes. Okay, I'm authorizing it the other way. Okay, view your notes. PHP rocks. I don't want to delete this note. I want to delete this one though. Okay. Did I delete it? No, I didn't. I think I did. Sanitize at post super global. Delete note. Go back. No, I didn't. So I should move this as well. But then I don't need to view it, right? Love PHP. Go back to all notes. Sanitize at post super global. Delete. Sorry, page not found. Amazing. Notes. Yeah, that did work. Okay. Let me redirect the user to his notes. So let's go view notes index.view.php and pass in these arguments. Header is my notes. Yeah, so I'm redirecting the user to the index after deleting. I want to delete 1, 2, 3. Okay, no, it's not working, so that's fine. I'll remove this. Okay, let's go.
And then we're going to look at the note that was returned from the database, and we'll check, well, is that user ID the same as the current user ID? Remember, right now we're hard coding that ID because we haven't yet reviewed authentication. But in the next section, I think we will take a look at that, and everything's just going to work seamlessly. Okay, cool. So assuming that we get beyond this point, then we could move on and delete the corresponding note. And I think this should do the trick. The final step is, well, where should we go at that point? Well, you've deleted the note. Maybe we should redirect you to the page that shows all of the notes. And in PHP, this is a little wonky, but we could add little helpers if we want to. In PHP, we're going to say header, and we're going to set the location to /notes. And then we're all done, so we can exit or die if you prefer. All right, so let's give it a shot. I will come back, give it a refresh. I will delete the note. And sure enough, it's deleted, and it...
Interesting. Header location notes. Interesting. Header location notes. /notes. This needs to be a string. And exit. Okay, let's try it out. This is a long one. Delete it. It's not redirecting me to all notes. What's wrong? Header location notes. Oh god, no. I'm okay with this actually.
Exit or die if you prefer. All right, so let's give it a shot. I will come back, give it a refresh. I will delete the note. And sure enough, it's deleted.
Let's try to do this. Okay. Back to all nodes is this. Okay. You see over here, I'm going to look at the URL below. Okay, so it's localhost/nodes. Interesting. So this one isn't working. I'll just say you know what, let me just not do authorization. Maybe it'll work now. This one is taking me to the home page. Weird. Cool. Let's move on.
And it redirected us back to this page. Okay, but now let's come back and change the current user ID to something like 25 or whatever. Okay, well now if the user with an ID of 25 tries to manually submit a request to delete this note, think about what happens. We first track down the note from the database, and that way we can look at the person who created the note, the user ID.
Oh, those are different steps. And I have combined them. Select all. Yeah, I've combined them, haven't I? I have indeed. So I still select them. And that's fine.
And if we check, well, that user ID is 1. And we check, all right, well, is 1 equal to the ID of the current user making the request? Does 1 equal 25? No. So, of course, we abort entirely. We don't continue the request. All right, let's give it a shot. Come back to Firefox, delete it, and yeah, you are not authorized to view this page. And if I come back to Table Plus, we haven't deleted anything. So that seems to be working the way we'd want. Okay, but yeah, now I just want you to take a look at the fact that we've created lots of branches here. Now, whenever I visit this page, it's not just the controller for showing a note. It's the controller for destroying a note or deleting a note. Here's a pathway for deleting it. Here's another pathway for showing it. And again, for small projects, it just doesn't matter very much because it's still relatively easy to understand, but you just don't want to build applications this way. So in the next episode, we're going to figure out how to submit a form using something like a delete request type or a patch or a put.
Yeah.
And to do that, we will need to update our router to support that. So I hope you're excited.
Yeah.
We will work on that in the next episode.
Amazing. Sounds fun. Okay, pause. Is there homework? No, there isn't. Okay, cool. What? This is a 20-minute lesson? Okay. Geared up for that. So the next one is 20 minutes. Building a better router, 20 minutes. There's one that's 21, there's one that's 22 and 25 login and log out. Cool. These things are getting more and more knowledge rich. But for now, I'm not going to debug this because I know it's not the correct way to do this. Deleting something via post request is very hacky. In fact, I am looking forward to how we update the router to accept put, patch and delete requests as well. So for now, I'm going to leave it be. It sort of works. The only thing that doesn't work is the redirection, which I'm okay with right now. Thank you again for watching. I'll just give you a quick rundown of what we did. So we created a hidden value notes on the front end. We also created a button, and we wrapped those two elements within a form which submits a post request. In our show controller, if our request is get, then we just show it. That's the intended behavior. But if the request method is post, then then we select the post ID from the database and then authorize the user and delete it. In fact, this is redundant. We shouldn't do this. I know, because this is a two-step process, but I've combined it into one. And then this doesn't work, but it should. Header, actually this is where it's failing. Yeah, if I just delete this, it might just work, but it didn't. So anyway, header location notes is supposed to redirect you to notes, and exit is an alternative for die. Delete via, I'll just commit this, delete via post request. Sync changes. Cool. Let's go. Thank you again for watching. Please do check out laracast.com. They have the best free tutorial on PHP on the internet. And it's not just on laracast.com, they've also posted it on their YouTube channel. So both of the links are in the description of this video. And check it out if you'd like to learn along with me. Thank you again for watching. Have a nice day.